First, you can call this an evidence gap, right? So you skip through articles that you found through Scholar Google or the library. However, you realize that these articles, their results are a bit contradictory. So let's say some articles found macro influencers, like influencers with millions of followers, are the most influential digital marketing tools, whereas some other articles found that actually micro influencers, nano influencers are the most useful and productive, profitable tools in digital marketing. So you find this a bit contradictory and try to establish new research, make another contribution in this area. This is what we call evidence gap or contradictory evidence gap. So you can do that after reading the literature. Second is called the knowledge gap. So let's say you are actually interested in nano influencers, niche influencers, or let's say the use of caps and memes in digital marketing. However, you fail to find interesting, good quality, up-to-date articles that actually research these topics. This could be not because of not searching enough, but actually this is quite under researched, right? Desired research findings that you're looking for do not exist. This is called the knowledge void gap or the knowledge gap, but be very careful that this is very hard to establish. Third type, practice knowledge gap or action knowledge gap or action knowledge conflict. So you observe something in practice. So let's say you're scrolling through X or TikTok and you see a trend, a paradigm, or a very successful advertising campaign. But actually this action, this practice, this campaign is totally opposite to research articles. This is totally contradictory to what you can find in academic articles. Right? So, for example, the literature states that you have to feel very similar with the influencers, or you have to envy the influencers that you'll be influenced. However, in practice, you realize that the influencers that people hate are making a lot of money, right? So this is a practice academia gap. So you can establish professional behavior or practices or real life examples deviating from research findings. The fourth gap is a methodological gap. So for example, you decided to study sensory marketing, okay? However, you have realized that most research and most articles you find are using experiments as methodology or surveys as methodology. So you establish that there is a methodological gap or a research design gap in this area. So in order to generate new insights, you decide to pursue sensory marketing by using a variation of research method. For example, using focus groups to investigate sensory marketing. Okay. So fifth gap is an empirical gap. This happens when there is a lot of literature, a lot of articles talking about the phenomena or establishing a theory, but there is not enough research that can testify, that can demonstrate, that approves these theories or hypotheses, right? So this can happen, for example, in findings about Gen Z or even Gen Alpha. So there are a lot of propositions or a lot of conceptual articles, but not enough data to support it. Sixth one is called the theoretical gap. So this is in areas where there is lack of theory, thus a gap exists. So this can be in very important practical phenomena that does not have a theory to support it. For example, we discussed mukbang, live shopping, why these are very successful and which theories, which main theory, which main motivations are behind these facts, right? And the seventh one, probably something that you can very much benefit from, is called a population gap. So when you read the articles or when you skip through research, you realize that certain populations are not researched, data is not collected from certain geographies or from certain generations, and you believe if these countries or if these cultures or if these generations are surveyed, the results will be very different. So, for example, you realize that all influencer marketing studies were collecting data from females, whereas you believe there will be a huge discrepancy if they interviewed or collected data from men or vice versa. Or let's say you believe most social media marketing studies, they study Gen Z. However, you believe if you collect data from the elderly or if you go to Gen X, the results will be very different. So you can establish a population gap and start researching these under-researched populations, which will prove that you have a unique contribution